I'm doing quite proud of myself again because I'm doing the double Instagram and Facebook story just because it's quicker. I don't need to do it twice. I'm also going to apologise for the poor light because I can't find my ring light. The kids love it. I find it inside pillowcases, I find it under beds, I find it in the toy box, and every time I put it in a different place, every time I put it on charge, that's where it goes missing. So this is just it's just a quick thought, really, that I've just seen a meme actually on Instagram, and I do understand, like with a lot of things that prompt me into a discussion, I understand where they're coming from. I do get it, I really do. But it says, it's just a big bold, like a block quote, so it's just colour, and then I think it was like bright yellow with white writing so it stands out. And it says, heal yourself before you have kids so that your kids don't have to heal from you. This is a very honourable intention. This is, on the surface of it, a very sensible thing to say. If you know that you have, say, childhood trauma from adverse childhood experiences, which means if you were raised in a chaotic place, if you had a parent with substance abuse, if you were bounced from home to home and foster care and things, you will have some kind of wound. This is not me putting it on people. This is research. This is educational research, it's psychology research, it is the research of attachment and memory, and there are all kinds of things that happen to us in childhood. They are called adverse childhood experiences. Below this video, for people on Instagram, I will put the link, and on Facebook I will put a link to join the adverse childhood experience free training shared by the UK government. It's for anybody who works with children and young people, and if you're a parent, legit, you can use it. It's a free resource, and it is really, really interesting and really, really important, and it is all about what are adverse childhood experiences, what are the effects, what can we do as child and young people supporters to support our children to move on. Here's the extra nuance. Many people, I read a statistic like literally 3 days ago, and I'm writing an article for somebody on LinkedIn, that this is in the United States, like 70% plus of people polled in this particular study, so it's going to be likely there's going to be more who aren't reporting, of people in the United States have enough markers of adverse childhood experiences to be considered holding on to trauma. Now, the idea that you have to heal before having children, for me, is problematic, because it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. Like, if you have stuff that makes you shout, "Oh, hey guys, congratulations on your new baby. Oh gosh, I've been watching you on Instagram." And sorry, my next door neighbour has just popped up. Oh, my England next door neighbour has just popped up. I'm so happy for you. I'm going to message you today. Sorry, very exciting. So if you know that you are carrying stuff around, if you have trauma and you're aware of it, and you then have children, the wonderful thing about this story is that if you heal your trauma, again, this is research driven, if you have trauma, you have a right to heal. If you do make sense of the trauma, I'm going to quote, this is Gabor Mate and this is Dr. Dan Siegel, who's a child psychotherapist, and they both work in trauma. If you heal your trauma, if you make sense of your trauma, you will not pass it on. This has been shown time and time again through studies. This is the good news story. Of course, if you have trauma, if you have wounds from your childhood, if you have a history and baggage, which, let's be honest, we all do to varying degrees, you will pass it on. Because you will either try and do, that thing where people who grow up in poverty try and get their kids everything, so they might work all hours and never see their kid, but their kid has everything that they ever wanted. And then their child comes out with, but my parents were never available. I'm so frustrated, but you can see how easy it is. Or they perpetuate, if they were yelled at as children, they don't have their own coping mechanisms, they haven't healed what is going on in themselves when they feel stressed out or afraid or scared or triggered, which I talked about yesterday in my Facebook group in the Own Your Parenthood Challenge, which I'm about to invite you to. Then that is going to be passed on, because if you were mistreated as a childhood, if you have, term again, adverse childhood experiences, you are more likely to pass it on to your child if you don't heal it. Here's my route. Like, this is what we know, and this is why people say things like, heal your stuff before you have babies, otherwise, you're being a disrespectful mom or dad, or whatever. It's problematic for me though, because people from certain socioeconomic backgrounds are more likely to have adverse childhood experiences. Horrible incidences of racism are adverse childhood experiences. So people from black and ethnic minority groups are more likely to have had those. Does that mean they can't have children? Does that mean that people who came from chaotic upbringing, who through no fault of their own, one of their parents was an alcoholic, does that mean that they don't have a right to have children? Does that mean that people who don't have huge baggage and trauma and adverse childhood experiences, because they are lucky, because they are privileged, because they grew up, because they happen to be born into a middle class or wealthy family who had time and skills and self-awareness, and their parents were able to be gentle and supportive and loving and to help them develop in a way that they did not experience adverse childhood experiences or being cut off emotionally or being shouted at or yelled at or mistreated. Does that mean it's okay for them to have children without doing counselling or coaching or therapy? You see what I mean? It's a lot more nuanced. I'm going to add one more thing before I get on with my day, because you can tell I've just done a workout and I'm actually quite sweaty. Luckily it's not smell-o-vision, as my daughter said the other day. Another thing is that sometimes, I can tell you this from absolute my experience, you don't know what wound you've got until you have a 3-year-old stick their thumb in and twist it. Until you have experienced the sleep deprivation of having children, until you have experienced having your child perpetrate some behaviours like being the biter at nursery, or like throwing your food, and it perpetrates a terrible word, but sometimes it feels like that. I remember feeling like that when one of mine, they all went through a phase of biting, many kids do. When you're at nursery or playgroup or in the park or something, and another kid pushes your kid, it's like, oh no, don't worry, it's okay, and then you look after your kid. When your kid shoves another kid off a slide, it's like, oh no, like it's so much worse when it's your child. Does anyone have that experience? Give me a wave or let me know. Like, that was certainly my experience. Maybe that's one of my wounds. Just thought about that. Oh, epiphany live. Wow. So, when that happens, that is when we see, when we are triggered. We talked yesterday in the Own Your Parenthood workshop over in the Facebook group, Cycle Breaker Parents Unite. You're welcome to join it. When we talked about the ball being the children's behaviour and it lands on that big red button, which is your trigger, and then you have your reaction, you have your like, stop it, or listen to me, or you push them away, or you might emotionally shut down yourself because it's too much to cope with, because you have a wound in there, and that wound, the psychological wound, the emotional wound, is being triggered. It's not the same as being tired, which you're allowed to be. That is an environmental trigger. I'm talking emotional and the intergenerational triggers from your own childhood. Now, this is a sign. So when these things come up, and when we yell, when we shout, when we shut down, when we can't cope, or when we push our children, metaphorically or really, away, then that is not a sign to beat ourselves up. It's a sign to say, okay, something's going on. What's going on here? Where's this button coming from that's been pressed? Why did I behave like that? And when you are triggered, what it is your child showing you, putting up a mirror to like, hey mummy, here's your wounds, here's your homework, this is what you need to heal. Now for many of us, the world over. Yes, we can do work before we have children. Like a lot of people have counselling, or they have trusted friends, they journal. A lot of people do self-development practices, which is wonderful. And then you have kids. Oh, lightning! It's going to be thunder in a sec, just so you know. And then they have children, and that's what I was just saying happens. You get triggered, and you see your wounds. You can't heal them before you're aware of them. This is why conscious parenting is an ongoing practice. It is an art. It is an art of radical compassion for yourself and radical responsibility. Okay, I've noticed this. I'm really unhappy with the way I behaved right here. Hey. And I don't want to repeat this behavior. Therefore, I'm going to take steps to heal this wound. And this is what we do. So let me know what you think. I'm really interested in how it landed, because I just feel like it's very simplistic and it's very easy to say, don't have children until you heal your wounds. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up by being a bad parent already, because you shouldn't have children until you are a completely whole, wonderful, all singing, all dancing, completely spiritually zen human being. I mean, have you met them? Are you that unicorn? I don't know anybody who is. Dalai Lama? Not parent. I mean, there's an argument, probably parent of nation. But it's, you know what I mean? Like, we can't be completely healed and psychologically whole and have gone into all of our wounds. We just can't do it. And if that is the bar, here's the rub. If that is the bar that you are setting yourself, I must not react ever. I must always be a responsive, gentle parent. I must never shout. I must never be passive aggressive or sarcastic when I'm dealing with my child. You can't do it. And you don't have to. So these things like, heal yourself first, it's not actually that helpful. And it's not fair because if you grew up in poverty, that's where you were born. You have a right to heal your wound and move on so you don't continue. You have a right to say, okay, I'm really, really thankful for everything that my parents did in that time. I choose to heal the wound and move on in a different way because I don't want to live like that. You absolutely have that right. But it is not fair to say, just because you grew up in poverty, just because you are from a section of society who experiences outrageous, disgusting discrimination because of who you are, that you can't have kids until you've healed, because that's not fair. It's just not fair, and it is an unequal society. What we do need, my view, and it is shared by a lot of people, and this is prompted from me watching the Wisdom of Trauma movie. By the way, it's open until Sunday. They've extended it, so you can just Google Wisdom of Trauma, Gabor Mate, Gabor, and then Mate is in Google. You can just write Mate, Mate. It's wonderful, and the whole lecture series that goes with it is groundbreaking. There is so much more to it, because really what this is trauma work. It is healing. It is moving on so that we don't pass these stories onto our children. And as Becky Shuttleworth, she's a child mental health mentor who I work with, and she helps children to become more resilient to this, so that they don't grow up with the same. We're never all going to grow the next generation of completely whole, psychologically healed individuals. That's a myth. These people don't exist. Like, to be human is to have existential crises. To be human is to hold on to things. To be human is to learn what you need to heal. And I would argue the point of life is to go through it and heal. This is my view. It's just some really interesting thoughts, and I'd be really interested to know, what do you think? What do you think? I know people who have chosen not to have children because they feel that they don't want to pass on their own stuff. I know people who have had children very young because we don't always plan it out. Sometimes the universe finds us. Sometimes the children find us. And that's what happens. You don't get a chance to heal. But we can do it ongoing. So if you're watching, 1, you don't have to heal before you have children. That's nice if you can start the work. That is really, really wonderful. If you could be aware when you're having children, woohoo. 2, you can heal as an ongoing process. In fact, modeling that for your children, being triggered, having a response, apologizing, I'm really sorry that I raised my voice at you. It really wasn't acceptable. I think something is going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do yoga and some meditation later on tonight, because I don't want to do that again. You're not responsible for mummy's emotional well-being, and mummy's going to take steps now to look after myself. That is a radical act. Apologizing to your child is a radical act. Showing your child that you are allowed to be human, you are allowed to mess up. Show your humanity by being triggered, by getting angry, by being upset, and then take steps to heal. This is the greatest gift that you can give your child, much more than perfectionism, because perfectionism teaches our children that they can't ever make mistakes. Perfectionism teaches our children that they must always be perfectly behaved, and that leads them to great stress, because most of our generation is experiencing that same stress of trying to be everything, all things to all people, all singing or dancing, and it's not sustainable. So let me know your thoughts. That got quite a lot deeper than I thought. Just something from, I guess it is about disruption. It's about looking at it and saying, is that really true? Do we have to be perfect before we have children? Is that actually what is useful for our children? Is that fair to expect everybody from every background to be healed? Is it fair when people from different backgrounds are going to have less privilege and more opportunities for adverse childhood experiences? Is it fair that we treat them differently? No. My view. Interested in your view. What's come up for you? What are you thinking? Okay. Have a lovely Saturday. Oh, before I go, I am running the Own Your Parenthood workshop. It's a 5-day workshop. It started yesterday, which was Friday the 18th, and we talked about what triggers are, what they show you, and why conscious intention. I'm not going to shout today. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. I'm not going to be grumpy. I'm not going to shut down. Why saying it and thinking it and wanting it isn't enough. So we talk about the conscious, the subconscious. We talk about what happens when the kids do something and we react or we respond. We also talked about the difference between reaction and response. And today, I've not got my notes. So today is day 2, and you are more than welcome to join. So what you do is you go to the Cycle Breaker Parents Unite group. You can either do it on Facebook. I will put the link here. If you're on Instagram, what you do is you go to my bio. There is a link tree, and there is a little thing where you just click it, and it says join the Cycle Breaker Parents Unite Facebook group, and you just go in. You can get the replay from day 1. If you need you will need a workbook. If you're just seeing this, then you can go into, send me a message, or there's threads that say, do you need a workbook? And then you say, yes, I need a workbook, and then I send it to you by direct message. Simples. You are more than welcome to join us. It's 8:30 p.m. Hanoi time, which is 2:30 p.m. UK time, and just put Hanoi into a world clock to work out where you are, because I'm over in Asia. Right. Have a lovely Saturday, and hopefully I will see you this evening in the Cycle Breaker Parents Unite group. Bye. I'm going to turn that live off. There we go. And I'm going to turn this live off. Thank you very much for being here, and I will see you, hopefully I'll see you tonight over in the Facebook group. You're more than welcome.